What's up? Live streaming, property tax excitement right here, right now. It is 10:03, which means I'm 3 minutes late. I apologize for that. Just had to get a couple things together. All right, y'all. So property tax value notices were mailed out May 1st, which means you should be getting them any day. If not, you already have them. And you are learning some of the same things that I've been learning, or that I started to see on Friday. And it's been really interesting to see how the appraisal district reacted. The appraisal district had several different dynamics that were involved in what was going on this year, and they took different measures and made different decisions on how they were conducting their business and how they sent out value notices this year to account for all those different factors. And so let me go over a couple of the different factors. What I mean by that, number one, their entire process got delayed. So in the past, they've sent out value notices around April 1st. And the protest deadline last year, at least, was May 15th. Okay, so this year, everything got delayed because of this coronavirus thing. So they delayed everything to May 1st. But that was when they released the values. Now, last year was a different story because last year they were getting audited. The state comptroller does something every few years that is called a property value study. And the property value study is basically just where the state comptroller comes in and they audit the values and they try to see what's going on, or how accurately the appraisal district values the properties. And there are some issues with this property value study thing that they do, the audit. There are some problems with it, and I could get into that later, but basically it just requires them to send out many more value notices. So last year you likely got a value notice. This year there's a good number of you that did not get a value notice. The other thing that's unique is they have their facility shut down because there's a stay-at-home order. So, and now I know that's being released, but I think that for their facility, I think it's probably still locked down. I don't know. As they open up beauty salons, surely they'll open up the appraisal district. So what we're seeing is they have those different dynamics. They needed to send out value notices, but they're not required to send out near as many. So, it's not a value study year. It's not an audit year. So if their values aren't as accurate this year, there's nobody there to hold them accountable, which really works in your favor and works in their favor this year. Because the other dynamic to this whole thing, on top of the delay, on top of the building being shut down, is the coronavirus itself. There is an actual legitimate health risk to having everybody into the facility. Now, I'll mention this: if you go into protest in years past, and you go the formal route, there's a 3-person panel that acts almost like the jury. Okay, and that 3-person panel, the demographic of the folks that make up that panel are usually folks that I'll just say the demographic is largely senior citizen or older. I should just say, maybe I'm getting into trouble talking about this stuff with age, but needless to say, it doesn't matter. That crowd is a little bit more at risk, but then they've got the entire staff to consider. There are several hundred people that work at the appraisal district because they do all the residential appraisals and commercial, and they do cars and business personal property and all sorts of crazy stuff. But so they had to take into account the massive amount of people that normally just walk into their front doors and would potentially carry this virus into their facility and infect all of the staff and all of the other members of the public in there. So it's a real health risk. It's a unique health risk that most other businesses aren't going to have because you just have so many people. And then there's a high percentage of older folks. I hate calling them older because I'll get in trouble saying that. But anyway. So you've got that whole dynamic that had to take all that into account. So this year, the appraisal district had to make some different decisions on how they were going to conduct their business to take into account the health and the delay and the facilities being shut down and all that stuff. So they have made some decisions. The way that they send out value notices is different, and the values are different. And I'm going to get into that. In fact, let me just go ahead and go into this. Now, I will say this. If you have a question or a comment, the very best way to comment is to go to our company page and comment there. Because of some security privacy issues, if you comment on my personal page, which this is being broadcast on as well, then I won't be able to see your comment and I won't be able to reply. If you go to our company page, then I'll be able to see it because of it's a little bit more wide open there. All right, so I analyzed 16,102 accounts. Those are accounts that were under our watch here. So out of here, I'm going to just put this up. Let me, I'm going to look over here, and I some of this stuff, I'm not a, numbers guy. So doing math in public is risky business for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share this screen over here, and I'm going to just put out there what we've got going on here. All right. So out of 16,102 accounts, if my cursor starts working, okay, out of 16,102, we had 5,618 no value yet. Okay. So what that means is out of 16,102 accounts that we analyzed, 5,618 properties have not received a valuation yet of any kind. It's still pending. They're still processing it. So I can tell you why that is here in just a moment, but I want to give you all the numbers real quick. So out of 16,102, we had 3,343 accounts reduced more than $1. Okay, the $1 number is significant this year. We started to see that there were a significant number of accounts that were adjusted just $1, and I found that to be odd. So I went ahead and separated into those categories. So then we had only 296 were reduced by $1 exactly. So the value went down on 296 out of 16,102, went down $1 exactly. This is the number that this is really small on my screen. I see that. Let me increase the size real quick for you. View. I am looking for the button that will increase the size. Here we go. Let's see if that will do it. It won't let me go any bigger than 200. So let's try 300. No. Okay. So I can do it artificially. Anyway, you got the idea right there. So there we go. All right. So 296 accounts were reduced by $1. This is the number that really excites me. 10,158 accounts had no change in value. That's wild right there. That's something we definitely don't normally see. We had 294 accounts increase by $1. And then we had 1,538 accounts increase by more than $1. There you go. So those are the numbers. That's what we are seeing. And I would love to go into more detail on these numbers and just look at exactly what percentage what percentage the properties increased or decreased, and really get into the nuts and bolts as to what's going on here. Because what the appraisal district does whenever they value your property, this is an important thing that really plays into the whole system altogether. So I just want to explain this real quick. Whenever they value your property, they are not actually looking at specific comparable sales for your property. Okay. What they're doing is they're looking at market segments, and they're trying to analyze whether or not the properties within a market segment went down or up. And then what they do is they adjust all of the properties inside that market segment by a certain percentage. Okay. And then they'll come back in and they might do smaller adjustments according to whether or not you have a pool or certain specific features. Okay. But the main adjustment that they do is a large blanket adjustment for a large area. Okay. That's what they normally do. That's the reason why when you go to protest, you might find out that even though they valued your property, for example, let's say they valued your property at $200,000 on your blue notice. If you go into protest, they might actually say, well, I know we sent you the value notice at $200,000, but comparable sales data says that your property is actually worth $210,000. So if you think you can protest and get away and get us to reduce your value, you got another thing coming, because the data is supporting the notion that we should have been even higher than what we proposed. Now that's crazy to most people, but that's part of the madness that I'm faced with and that you're faced with when you go into protest. It's this whole process, illogical process of how they go about valuing properties. And so the first methodology, the way that they come up with your market value, is through a process called mass appraisal. When you go to protest, the appraisal district attempts to do what you would do or what I would do or what an appraiser would do if they were actually coming up with a value for your specific property. So when you go into protest, they'll look at specific comparable sales that are unique, that are similar to your property, that have sold within the past year nearby your property. And so then they have that tangible, concrete data that supports a value that they can justify is a value that they can, theorize is what your house might sell for. So it's a different process altogether. Okay, so what I believe that they did this year is I think that they took the values and they wanted people to be as happy as possible. They wanted to minimize the number of protests possible. And also, I believe that they wanted to minimize the number of value notices they were sending out. So here's what happens. I should have done one more number on here, and I can do it if I can do it, but I'm not. So here's what happens. They are supposed to send you a value notice if your value has changed more than $1,000. Okay. Now, the numbers that I'm looking at here, these are all market value numbers. So let me show you something else. I'm going to just pull up another property here. I'm going to go, if you go to tad.org, then you'll see the website. So let me show you what numbers I'm specifically talking about. Okay. Because it matters. So I'm just going to go here and put in an address. You can put in any address. All this is public data. If you want to follow along, you can. This video will be is being recorded, and so you can rewind this once we get done here. But whenever I'm talking about those value changes, what I'm talking about is the number that TAD is in control of. They're in control of this column right here. Okay, this is the only number that they're in control of. So if the value from one year to the next stayed the same here, then that doesn't have any relevance on the value notice. If this number over here increased more than $1,000, then they have to send out a value notice. Now, the appraisal district doesn't have any control over this number. This number, let's say for this property specifically, I'll just look at the year 2019. This number over here was suppressed because there's a homestead exemption on the property. Okay. If there was no homestead exemption on the property, this number would have been equal to this number. Okay. The only reason why this number is any lower than this number is because there's a homestead exemption, and your homestead exemption protects you from getting taxed more than a 10% increase per year. So even though this year the numbers were exactly even, what happened was the value went from 155 to 181. Well, that's more than a 10% increase. So if you just take the deal here and you just go 155 times 1.1, what I'm in effect doing is adding 10% to it. What happens is you get this number right here, and that's what this number was capped out at. That's the number you're actually taxed on. So even though they thought that the house was worth 181 this year, the maximum the taxes were based on the 170 number. Well, so what happened was the appraisal district were trying to, take into account I believe that the health risk is number one, but certainly, the last thing the appraisal district wants is bad press, and they don't want to add to any problems. Trust me, they want their life to be easy. The employees there, they do not want their life to be hard. They take no pleasure in creating discomfort. And I think that this year it gave them the excuse to do everything in their power to take the health concerns strongly and to not add to the economic woes that we're all going through. So for the majority of the accounts, they kept this number the same. If they could justify this number the same, then they would. Now, the new Senate bill gave them the authority to justify this number staying the same. If last year, if you protested and you won, then they could almost across the board, the appraisal district had the ability they had the legal authority now to keep this number the same. If you didn't protest last year, then I think that we would see a lot more change in these numbers. So even though this number stayed the same, what happened is this number is always trying to become equal with this number. That's the goal of this number over here. This is your homestead capped value. Well, this number didn't increase at all. So the difference, if you add 10% to this number, then it exceeds this number. So then, or exceeds this number. So then it levels out. Anyway, I'm trying to explain this in a simple enough way so that everybody can get it. But it's confusing. The whole confusing thing with this is that they chose the wrong terminology here. They literally just put the wrong word on the website. It shouldn't say the word appraised. It should say homestead capped value. That's what it should say. I've tried to pass a law to get that changed, and the stack of papers will be larger than the entire bill or the entire economic plan or whatever, or entire budget for the state of Texas. So they wouldn't change this word there. And I'm trying to change it at the appraisal district. And I believe that they want this number changed, but there's probably an attorney or two that's causing them to not change that. Anyway, so here, let me get back to the story, and then I'm going to answer a bunch of questions. That's what I really want to focus on today, are the questions. But out of the properties that I studied, which were the properties that we were in charge of last year, or that we were authorized to protest on last year, which we protested and were successful on about 90% of all the protests we filed. Well, out of 16,102 that I looked at, 10,158 had no value change whatsoever. And when I say no value change, what I'm talking about is this number right here. This is the number that the appraisal district has control over. That number didn't change at all for 10,000 of them. It was increased or decreased by $1 for about $300 accounts each. And then it was reduced for 3,343. 5,618 people out of this group have not received a value notice yet at all. That the number hasn't been calculated. Let me tell you why. The appraisal district batches their value appraisals. And for the vast majority of all the accounts, they release the values on May 1st. Okay. But there are all sorts of properties in their system that fit crazy scenarios. So you have properties that where the property sold, or somebody put it into a trust or out of a trust. So the deed records changed, but they kind of see that maybe the property didn't sell because there's no sales record to back up that deed change. And so and there could have been some exemption changes. And anytime there's an exemption change, it could mean that there's an ownership change or some other things going on. So what they do is they take the vast majority of the properties and they value them all at the same time, because for the vast majority of properties, there wasn't a sale and there wasn't an exemption filed or anything like that. And so that's where all of these fall into. But there were 5,618 where there was most likely something quirky happened with the account, and it probably requires a human being to actually go and lay eyes on it and try and figure out why a change has occurred. And so for those, they say, well, we need to do an extra analysis on those. So they just kind of kick the can down the road a little bit, wait to see, and then they investigate the property, and then they'll send out a value notice. I should mention there's like, if you share ownership with somebody that maybe has a different exemption qualification, or maybe if you share ownership with somebody that's you're not married to, then and where there's multiple account numbers for the same property, you probably fit into this category. And so they just they'll release the values on those whenever they release them. We don't know the schedule. They don't release the schedule on that. In fact, everything that I'm telling you about how they conduct their business, they don't tell anybody this. This is just what I've noticed by analyzing the properties. But what'll happen is they'll send out the value notice, and then you'll get 30 days from the date they mail out that value notice to file your protest. Okay. One more thing. When we talk about the protest deadline, right now, the protest deadline for the vast majority of accounts, I believe, is June 1st. And what that is that's the deadline to actually file the protest. That's not the deadline to complete the protest. You just have to make sure that there's a paper on file with the appraisal district saying that you want to protest, and then they will schedule out those protests in the coming months to actually complete them. And I can tell you, I completed protests up through January of this year for last year. It's crazy. So here's the thing. I've got to praise the appraisal district a little bit for taking the authority that they had to make adjustments so that they're not saddling the vast majority of us with these really high values, which would cause us to have to pay more. I'm very happy that they've taken health as a concern, and they've taken such drastic measures. They are obviously doing what they can to try to account for all these different issues going on. If you're happy with your value, you're more than welcome to go ahead and try and protest electronically. In fact, I would recommend it, because you never know. Just because your value didn't change, or even if your value went down, it doesn't mean you should or shouldn't protest. If you don't get a value notice, but you can go to the website and see that a value has been proposed, then I still recommend filing a protest, but I would recommend just sticking with the electronic version of the protest. And the reason why I say that is this. I mentioned file a protest and do the electronic version. I'm gonna tell you why I think you should still file a protest. Let me use an analogy. If I had a buyer looking, because I'm a realtor, if I had a buyer that was looking to buy a house, and we went and found a house that was listed for sale at $300,000, most buyers have the mentality that they want to offer it less than $300,000. Well, that's not a well thought out mentality. It's a human reaction. I totally get it. I have the same reaction. I want to get less than list price. But the intelligent approach is to not just base your desire on what you want to offer based on what the list price is. You want to base your offer on what the value of the property is. For instance, if that property is listed at $300,000, but we go out and do the research and find that the property is actually worth $320,000 or $310,000, then that $300,000 price may actually be a bargain. And let's just say if we're in a multiple offer situation and multiple people are trying to get that house, then if you're just trying to offer list price or even below list price, you're going to miss out. However, if you've done the math to figure out that $300,000 price is actually lower than what the numbers support, then it would give you the ability to feel confident and understand that by placing an offer at $305,000 is actually not a bad decision at all. Maybe you can still get a heck of a bargain at $305,000, but yet you're paying over list price. Okay. So on the opposite side, if a property is listed for sale at $300,000 and you go and do the research and you find out it really is the data only supports $290,000, then if you think that you're getting a bargain by offering $295,000, then you're actually missing the boat in the opposite direction. So here's the thing. Your market value, what they're proposing on this number right here, what they're proposing right here is that's the number that they are saying your house is worth this year. That's their opinion of value, okay? This number is just like that list price. It doesn't tell you if it's good or bad. I don't care if it stayed the same. I don't care if it dropped. It doesn't tell you if it's good or bad. The only way to know if that's a fair value is by actually going through and filing the process or doing the research to figure out if it's a good value. Now, the easiest way to do that is to hire a guy like me for free, or hire a tax agent, pay them. It doesn't matter to me if you pay them. I just want you to protest. I'll do it for you for free. You definitely should do something. But you can also go onto their online system and do it yourself if you want. I've got a video out there. If you just Google Chandler Crouch property tax protest, you'll see it. In fact, if you go to freetaxprotest.com/video, then you'll see my videos. And the one in the top left corner, this one tells you exactly how to do everything on your own. You can do it on your own. But I think that you should, and you can see the data that they are using to justify their number. There's a little bit more to the story than that, but you can see that. So I highly recommend going ahead and protesting, just because you don't know if this is an accurate number or not. Now, if you want me to do it for you, it doesn't take me any extra time to do one more. We're probably going to do 20,000 this year. So one extra is not a big deal. Trust me. I've got staff hired and we're going all out. I'm going to protest on every single account we have. Okay. I recommend that you protest on your account. Now, I will say this. Let's understand that there are bigger issues at play here. There's a reason why the appraisal district did this. It's because there are real issues going on that we should all take serious. There's a real health risk out there, and there's and we need to understand and take that serious. So what I'm saying is protest electronically, but if you feel like you've got a fair value, don't go out and get repair estimates and photos and just try and build a case and go insist on doing an in-person protest just because you're hard-headed, just because you're trying to make a buck. Like or not make a buck. I mean, honestly, I think it's everybody's right to try and get that value and obligation to get that value as low as you can. I'm just saying, if you just give them, if the value is fair, go ahead and protest, do it electronically, but just don't go down to their office. I think that that's the message. That's what they're trying to do. And anyway, that's my opinion. That's what I'm telling people. But now on the other hand, if you feel like, if you feel like their value is not fair, go all the way with it. Get your repair estimates. If your house is in shambles and they're valuing it like it's not, like it's nice, you owe it to your family, and you have higher obligations to the folks that depend on you to be able to, keep the stuff in check, and the processes involved, that you owe it to yourself, your family, to make sure that these numbers are solid. Anyway, I can talk about this stuff forever. I'm going to go ahead and look at some questions we've got. If you have questions, go to the Chandler Crouch Realtors Facebook page and post them there. I'll be able to see them. If you're posting comments on my personal page, I probably won't see them. All right, let's see. This is a Bob Ross break right here. Okay, if you got a question, post it on our Facebook page. I'm going to answer it right now. We haven't received anything this year. Will they be sending out those notices this month? For it now, I will say this. If this value did not change more than $1,000, you are not going to get a notice at all. You're not going to get a notice if this value over here didn't change more than $1,000. Okay. If your value did change, or if this number up here says 0, then that doesn't mean you're being taxed at nothing. What it means is they just haven't come up with a value yet. Now, let me show you something. If you go to your account here, you scroll all the way up, you'll see this button right here. And if you click that, then it says value notice. This is where you can go to get your value notice. This is something else that they've done. They've made these electronically accessible. Okay. So here's this. I'm going to mention something else. A question that we've received quite a bit over the past few days is people saying, hey, I know they just passed this SB2 bill and it's supposed to keep values from going up too much. What's the deal with that? Why is my value still going up? Because there are still a lot of people whose value went up. SB2 focused its efforts in a different area. So actually, I'm going to share it again. When you pay your property tax bill, these guys right here are the folks that actually receive the revenue. Okay, Northwest ISD on this account gets the biggest share of the revenue. In fact, if you scroll up and you go to this document right here, if you look at your value notice, it'll give you an estimate of exactly how much they receive. Hold on. All right. So on this, they're not showing. Okay, they've edited out even more information. They've redacted even more information since they made this available. But on your value notice, if you go look at it, let's see. I'm just not going to be able to show you this in real time. But they show you estimates right here, and anyway, it just shows you which ones of these entities how much money they received. So the SB2 capped the amount of revenue increase they can receive. Okay. So that's what it is. It doesn't specifically pertain to your property tax, to your value here. It pertains to how much the budgets of these organizations can increase. Okay. And they were capped out for schools. It was capped out at 2.5% for the M&O side, which I could go deep and explain what that is. And then for cities, it capped out at 3.5%. But the appraisal district can still raise this as much as they want. And this one is determined by your exemption. So that's a common question that I've had. And I can go deeper on that. I just want to take another look at these questions. So, but that's the reason why you may not have received a value notice, is either because your value didn't go up more than $1,000 or because they haven't sent it out yet. Jerry says, age 65 exemption 2020 app for appraisal homestead package. The exemption is effective January of the year in which you became 65. Okay, so Jerry may be answering some questions. So there are a lot of questions about how the over 65 exemption works. And he's saying that if you turn, let's say if you turn 65 in, okay, Jerry's saying something that's a little different than my understanding. He's quoting though, he says the exemption is effective January of the tax year in which you became 65. I need to do a little bit more research on the over 65 exemption, but I'm just reading Jerry's quote right there. Thanks for the quote, Jerry. God bless you, Charlene. Pam, thank you. Elizabeth, you got it. All right, so here's a question from, oh man, if I just barely scroll this sucker, there's a lot of comments. All right, I'm going to read fast and go fast. If you have comments, go post them on our company Facebook page. Mary says, I filed for my homestead exemption last year, but TAD doesn't show it on the site. What should I do? Mary, it depends on when you filed it. If you filed it before April 30th, then I would be very concerned if it's not up there. I would go ahead and refile. The best, if you go to chandlercrouch.com/homestead, I've got a little tutorial there. One of these days, I'll probably have an over 65 tutorial that teaches this. By the way, the same document that you use for the homestead exemption is the same document used for over 65. I got a little tutorial here. You just go through here. There's a link to the form right there. The form that I linked to on this is good all over the state of Texas. And then I've got a little tutorial on how to fill it out. Then you have to physically mail it in along with your driver's license, showing the same exact address as your property. If depending on when you filled that thing out and sent it in, you may call. If you go to your value page here and you scroll all the way down, under the exemption section, you should see it there. If it's not there, then that means it's not filed on your property. So I don't know what to tell you. It just kind of depends on how much time you've given them to process it. It should show up though. If you filed it last year, it should show up. So there was some kind of issue. And so Mary, I'd be happy to, I would say just call the exemptions department and see if you can, let's see, get that information. I'm going to go here. I shouldn't have navigated away from that page. In fact, I'm going to go back. I'm going to pull up another one and I'm going to show you where you can find the phone number. They've got a specific phone number, I believe, for the exemptions department. And if you go here, then I think they link to it right from their homepage. You scroll all the way down and where are you at? Phone numbers. Hold on, give me 1 second. I'm going to find this phone number most likely. And if not, I will. There we go. Questions about exemptions or mailing address, please call this number, or you can email exempt@tad.org. Okay. So the phone number for exemptions is 817-284-4063. And you can email exempt@tad.org. It really helps to protest any requests you have if you put your account number on the deal, and your account number you can find right up there. So hopefully that helps, Mary. Let's see what else we got. Mark, last year, let's see here. Last year was the first year we had you protest our valuation. I was pleased with the result, but I was surprised to learn that our blue sheet now goes to you from now on. I'm a little uncomfortable with that. Was that necessary? Mark, I want to be completely honest with you. I'm a little uncomfortable with that too. I was taken off guard by that, and it was not something that I expected. It's something that I found out about when they mailed a stack of paper literally about 5 feet high times 2 is what I remember. Out in my lobby, they delivered the mail, and it was like a massive amount of mail. I wasn't expecting that, Mark, because on the agent authorization form, it doesn't specifically say anything about who they're going to mail that value notice to. So, Mark, the best thing that I can do, I'm just going to be honest with you, and I haven't addressed this publicly, but I haven't received them this year yet. But when I do, I promise you, I am not going to put those things in envelopes and take the time to fold them up and put stamps on them and address them. I just can't. I'm doing this for free, and I would do it, but I can't. So what I'm doing is I'm emailing them to everybody. Okay. So I've got the first thing that I've done is showing you how, if you go to your account right here, you click this, look it up, you click view documents, then you'll be able to access your document this way. Okay. The other thing is, whenever I do get those, I am digitizing them, and I will have them on file to be able to email to everybody. And I don't know how all that's going to get processed. I sent in my open records request yesterday, and I think we protest for more than anybody else in the whole county. Okay. There's not anybody in the county that protests for more accounts than we do. And so when I filed my open records request, I think that they might've been kind of scratching their head on how they were going to figure out how to do that. I think that what they do, Mark, is whenever that you have somebody protesting on your behalf, I believe that they just save postage and decide that they're going to send all those value notices to one place instead of mailing them out to everybody, because that helps their budget. It's not something that they told me that was going to happen. I'm sure people that have been protesting for years and years and years as a property tax agent knew that would happen. But when you protest for thousands, sometimes things happen differently than and there's not someone there to say, hey, watch out, you're about to get a crazy amount of mail. But Mark, I share your concern, and I will get you your value notice. Hopefully, if you access it that way, what I just showed you is the way to go. If you need more than that, email me at protest@chandlercrouch.com. As soon as I have the copies, I will get you those. Sharon Hempill Watson, Chandler, thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Good morning. I saw my value from an email you sent me. Is that the same as last year? Can't be accurate. Nika, I can't tell you if it's the same as last year. Probably is, though. In vast majority, it is the same as last year. Can't be accurate. It probably is accurate. Let's see. Debbie, let's see. Tony says, so if my value is the same as last year, will you be able to get down any this year? There's a good chance, Tony. Like I mentioned, that analogy of, if it depends on if there's data to justify a reduction, we'll get you a reduction. If there's not data to justify a reduction, we won't. I know for this specific property I've been showing you, the data, I believe that the data shows this house is worth, $210,000 or so. Well, they stuck the same value on it. And the reason why is because we protested successfully on it last year. And so now with the new laws that are passed, they have a little bit more ability to keep the value the same, because they have that legal authority now. Robin, you haven't gotten your statement. You're not alone there. There are a bunch of people that haven't. Do we need to notify you to protest? Katasha, let me tell you this. If you go here on your account page and you see my name show up just like that, then you don't have to do a thing. We're going to protest for you automatically. Now, there are some people that are saying, please don't protest. I'm saying, man, it's actually easier for us if we just go ahead and protest for you, because we don't have to process anything unique. I would love to actually protest for everybody that I'm still authorized to protest for, just because there's so many people that are saying, well, the value didn't change, we'll just keep it the same. And I'm thinking, well, the value didn't change. That doesn't mean it's fair. You should still protest. I'm just saying, just don't go down in person and go, spread the virus. I'm saying still protest. It's just that let's just take a look at the data. We're not going to take a look at the data unless we're filing a protest for you. So if we're on your account, or if you feel the need yourself, just go ahead and take the first step of the protest. Or we'll take the first step of the protest and just take a look at the data, just to make sure that the value is there. If there's data to support a reduction, we'll get you a reduction. Okay. Yes, Crystal says, since I'm protesting for you, I need the blue sheet. That's what the appraisal district theorizes. They say, since I'm the guy protesting, I need the value sheet. But I'd rather them send it to you, but that's the way they do it. And so I get you that value. I get you the digital copy of the blue sheet, one way or the other. All right. Debbie says, I understand you say that 2020 appraised values numbers were wrong on the blue form. Can you explain how do we come up with the real numbers? Okay. So Debbie, I think Debbie, what you're referring to is the estimates that I mentioned. Let me see if I can find a value notice in my system here so I can show you an example. The estimated tax bill that they have on there is wrong. It's not that they made an error. It's that it's actually physically impossible for them to come up with an accurate number, because the oh goodness gracious, I am not going to be able to do this here. I'm going to just take a little screenshot here, and so hopefully I'm not giving anybody's personal info. Let's see, just scanning to make sure everything's good. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'll share this. So on your value notice, they actually do have an estimate that they line out. Hold on. I just realized that barcode actually has your account number on it. I don't want that to happen either. All right. This is going to show on your value notice. Hold on. Let me go back here. And voila. Here we go. On your value notice, you'll see this. And what this is this is a breakdown of all of the entities that receive revenue from the check that you write the tax assessor when you pay your tax bill. This is where the money goes. It goes to on this example, like $84 goes to the water district. City of Fort Worth gets $1,700. And what this is for this estimated taxes of $7,412. Now, the reason why I say that this number is 100% for sure wrong is the only thing that's wrong on here is the estimated taxes. And I'm saying it's wrong is because they don't know what the actual tax rate is going to be. It's not that they made an error on the form. It's just that the tax rate is established in September. Well, I should say July through September or so. And so since the tax rate is established during that time, what they're doing is they're using last year's tax rates to calculate these numbers. And those tax rates aren't accurate, or there aren't going to be the same tax rates they have this next year. Okay. There's different story you need to check out in the Empower Texans groups on how you can get involved with these different entities to make sure that these tax rates don't change, because that's the other half of the equation. Let me show you this. So your actual tax bill is calculated by your property value minus exemptions, and we'll put that in parentheses, times your tax rate equals tax bill. Okay, that's the formula right there. Okay, and so what happens is the appraisal district is in charge of this side. They also are the ones that record your exemptions. The tax rate is determined by these different entities here. And so the way that the tax rate is established is they find out what all the property values are, and then the individual entities come up with their budget numbers. And then they say, okay, it's like being able to spend money that's not yours, that you don't have yet. They just figure out how much money they want to spend, and then they figure out how much they need to charge you on your tax rate in order to be able to satisfy their budget. Well, that's what SB 2 does, is it limits the amount of change that they can do in that area to 2.5% for 2.5% or 3.5%. And so coming back to Debbie's question, the answer here is that these estimates are not accurate, because these tax rates are not the new tax rates. Hope that helps. My total appraised, Veronica says, my total appraised value went up in 2020, and now market and appraised are the same. That's exactly right, Veronica. Those numbers will be the same. If they, let's see here, those numbers will be the same. Dadgummit. All right. I'm trying to find. All right. There you go. All right. So the numbers will be the same in most years. The only reason why they're not the same is if the difference between this number and this number exceeds more than 10%, then this number will cap out at 10% growth. But if the growth between these numbers is less than 10%, then these numbers will be the same. Okay. So that's normal. Judy, we have not gotten our tax statement yet. Do we need to contact you now to protest? Judy, if you have not already contacted me and if we have not been registered, then yeah, fill out the form, freetaxprotest.com. We'll take care of you. Freetaxprotest.com is where you go to sign up for us to protest for you. A lot of people haven't gotten their blue notice. That's totally okay. Everybody can go online to get their protest. Can you protest online? Yes, absolutely. Yes. Let me show you the way to protest online is to go to my video. If you go to freetaxprotest.com/video, and you'll see a number of videos that address some frequently asked questions. This video in the top left corner shows you how to protest online. So what I've done here is let's see here. Oh, got to pause it. It's over. All right. So right here, I talk about, hold on here, 3 levels of protesting. Okay. At about the 1 minute mark. Oh, please stop. I don't want to see that first slide. It's going to happen. Hold on the first minute. Well, the video is taking a little while to load. There we go. Here we go. So I talk about 3 different levels of protesting. There's this automated level, there's an informal and formal. And so I go through each step on here. And if we're authorized to protest on your behalf, then we're going to go down this line right here. And we're going to try and send them a lowball offer and get it accepted right off the bat. And if that doesn't happen, we escalate, we do more research, and we figure out if we're getting you the best value. But you can go on and do the automated all on your own. And I give you instructions right here. The way you get to that is to go to freetaxprotest.com/videos, or you can just have us do it for free by clicking this button, and then you sign up on the form. It's easy peasy. What we got next here? Can you protest online? Blue Angels flying over. Dadgummit. It's about 11:20. All right, cool. We got 30 minutes till the Blue Angels come. So we're going to cut off before then because I'm not going to step on their toes. Debbie says, so if you are 65 and taxes are supposed to be frozen, can you get anything lower? Great question, Debbie. Not all your taxes are frozen. That's the reason why you say they're supposed to be, because it's not, they're capped out. But not all of these entities participate in the over 65 exemption. For instance, this water district, the evil water district, I say evil, I don't know enough about them. All I know is about the boondoggle at the, over there by Joe T's. It's messing up my Joe T's commute. You should do some research on that. Search water district and Empower Texans, and you're going to find a list of scandalous things over there. Beyond that, we got Tarrant County Hospital, Tarrant County College. I don't believe that any of those guys participate in the over 65 exemption. Now, I will say this: look at the portions that they receive. It's not very high out of your tax bill. The amount that you pay that goes to them is fairly low. So compared to everything else, but you still should protest. You can definitely still get lower. When we say that the amount you pay is frozen, what we're talking about is the actual amount you pay. This doesn't have anything to do with the value that they're proposing. These numbers are still going to go up, or they're still going to change, even if you have an over 65 exemption on your property. Jay says, with the pandemic, shouldn't our homes be lesser value at this time? Great question, Jay. Thank you for asking that. Most people are thinking, well, the property value should be going down because people are out of work. People can't qualify for financing. So people aren't paying as much for houses. And that is probably true for today. However, I will tell you this, the real estate market is still pushing forward, and we're selling a decent number of houses. We're not seeing the spike that we normally see, but the people are still buying and selling houses. So at least in our world, I can't speak for all the realtors, but we kick extra butt and take extra names. So that's what happens in our world. But Jay, what the reason why you're not the reason why this information I'm sharing with you today is so shocking is because these values are supposed to be according to what the property was worth on January 1st, 2020. Because they have to pick a target. Their target date is January 1st, 2020. What was the value of the property on that date? Well, on that date, we didn't have all this pandemic stuff going on. The values hadn't necessarily been affected on that date. Now, if you go into protest, you're going into protest in May. Well, guess what? The appraisal district is going to use evidence that after that date to support what the value was on that date. So for instance, let's say if your property sold in February, let's say you bought it in February of this year, and you bought it for $200,000. Well, they're going to look back and they're going to say, well, since you bought it in February, odds are the value of the house wasn't much different than when you bought it in February. Okay. They'll use evidence like that. So I believe that part of what the appraisal district did was they kind of took into consideration that this stuff is going on. And so they adjusted the values to make sure it did reflect a little bit more about what's going on in the world today instead of just what was going on January 1st. Because if they would have valued these properties according to what the data supported on January 1st, we would all have much higher values. I can guarantee that. Mary says, I filed for my homestead exemption last year. Okay, we've already talked about that. Is it too late to do a homestead? No, Sherry. People say that you have a April 30th deadline to file your homestead exemption. Well, that is one of the few things that has a soft deadline. That's not an actual hard deadline. You should still file your homestead exemption anytime you feel like you qualify. In fact, you can go retroactively 2 years. If you didn't file it last year, go ahead and file it right now. Fill out the form appropriately, putting the date that you started to occupy that property as your primary residence, and they'll even file it retroactively. So the date on that is soft. The reason why they want you to file it by April 30th is just to ensure that it'll be calculated and show up on your tax bill in October. Okay, let's say you haven't filed it though. We're only at May 6th. I think that there's a good chance that your tax bill would be calculated with your homestead exemption calculated into the numbers if you went ahead and filed that today. But let's just say they're overwhelmed and they don't get to it. Well, what'll happen is the tax assessor will get all the data whenever they get it. And if it turns out that you would have paid less if your exemption would have been filed sooner, but you qualified during that time and it's within the past 2 years, the tax assessor will actually send you a check in the mail, or they'll send extra money back to your escrow account if you have a mortgage on the property. And so you'll have the opposite problem of what most people are having right now. A lot of people are having escrow shortages. Well, in that situation, you may have an escrow surplus. And so in that case, your escrow company may send you a check back, but file your homestead exemption anytime. Doesn't matter when, but file it sooner rather than later. Mark, Mark, anytime you authorize me to protest on your behalf, you're authorizing me on the account. And if you ever don't want, look, I do not care. I'm not trying to force anybody to hire me to protest for you. We're doing it for free. I'm not making money off of it. Sure. And if you've been in my world, if I've been on your account, we don't blow you up with emails. We have to email more because of the way the email servers are working. But if you ever want to cancel, just go to freetaxprotest.com/cancel. It's super simple. I don't beg you to stay because I want to make you happy. I want to serve you. And that's the way you do it. I just want you to protest, whether you do it yourself or whether I do it for you. That's all I care about. Look, please, if you want us to not protest for you, it would help tremendously if you could actually let us know, because the appraisal district doesn't let us know. If you file paperwork with them revoking us, then we could still potentially go forward and protest for you. Even if you filed the paperwork, and all I think in my system is that the appraisal district made another error and they've screwed up their records. And then I start feeling bad because then I come back to you and I'm thinking I should have a result for you. And there's just been something that happened behind the scenes that I wasn't made aware of. If you want us to not protest on your behalf, go to freetaxprotest.com/cancel. All right. Let me just show you, because gosh, dog, that causes a lot of problems, guys. You need to understand, I'm here to help. I'm not against you in any way, and I want to help you if you feel like I'm going to be able to help. freetaxprotest.com/cancel. It's super simple. I just put a link right there, and it's a simple Google form. You just fill the thing out. It's short. It's not a big deal. Okay. But that helps us so that we know we can update our records that you don't want us to protest for you. And it also allows you to unsubscribe from the emails if you don't want to get emails. Not like we're blowing you up with emails, but just saying. Unfortunately, my market value increased over $7,000. Iris, you're not alone. A lot of people have. I would recommend a protest. Mark says you need to file something. Don't remember forms to stop. Okay. Debbie says you need to file something. Don't remember forms you need to complete to stop Chandler from representing you. That is my understanding. You can call Chandler to get more information. Calling won't help right now. You can email me, protest@chandlercrouch.com. We're receiving several hundred emails. They're flowing in like crazy. I've got Jennifer. Jennifer, can you wave? You're on. What's up, Jennifer? So we got Jennifer there. We've got 3 people responding to emails right this second. Okay, and I'm doing everything I can to reply. Calling doesn't help. The reason why I'm doing this right now is if you got a question, just throw it out there. I'll answer it. But if you don't want me to protest, then just let me know. No problem. So in this example, the total appraised is the same as the market value. Yes. This is what Jay is saying. Shouldn't the appraised value always be less than the market value? No, Jay, the appraised value is going to be less than the market value only if the amount of increase exceeds 10% per year. Okay. As long as the amount of increase is less than 10% per year, your market value and appraised value are going to be exactly the same. If you don't have any exemptions on your property, the market value and appraised value will always be the same. And I hate using the word appraised because it's the wrong word. The appraisal district needs to rename that homestead capped value. Lewis says, I mean improvement market due to new roof. Lewis, they don't know when you put a roof on there. They do know if you file permits that are for a major renovation. And if you ever do that, they may come and revalue the whole property. For instance, if you put in a pool or you put in, you add square footage, they could reset all your exemptions. They could cancel exemptions. They could go do all sorts of crazy stuff. But they're not going to do anything different if you just put on a new roof. Looks like mine decreased this year. Good for you, Robin. No change in value. Glenn says, thank you. You're welcome. Jung Hoon says, I bought my house last year and the appraised value is very close to the price I paid, even slightly more. Is that normal? Should I protest? Jung Hoon, you are more than welcome to sign up for me. I'll fix that for you. However, you can just email your closing documents to res@tad.org and include your account number. But if you bought your house, don't send, actually they made a law where they can't raise it on you. If they propose a value, then they're not going to raise it on you. So just if you bought your house and you're getting taxed at more than what you bought it for, and you bought it between January 1st, 2019 and March 31st, well, and I would say January 1st, 2019 and January 1st, 2020, then just send in your closing documents and they'll decrease that for you. Mark says, mine hasn't decreased in several years, but continues to rise, even though Chandler has tried to help. Now, here's the thing, Mark. Your value is going to increase if the data supports an increase. And it doesn't matter if I protest or you protest or anybody protests. And most people that we protest for, their value is still going up. And the reason why is because the value is because it's just not going up as much as it would have. So for instance, from this year to this year, I can tell you firsthand what happened on this. I think that they proposed like $195,000. Well, we got them down to 181, but it didn't go up to 195. And so that was a successful protest. So, but if you look, it went from 155 to 181, still went up. We can't, like, the system is designed to accurately reflect what the value of your property is. And the process of protesting is to make sure it's a fair value. We can't just create new numbers that cause this number to go down. So it's not going to go from 155 to 149 when every Joe Blow from California is moving to your neighborhood and paying $1 million for $100,000 piece of property. It's just you have those people to thank for moving here and jacking up your values. The appraisal district just uses their sales data to justify the increase, but that happens all the time. We get people will say, "What happened? You raised my value." I'm like, "No, we didn't. We actually decreased it. It's just not as bad as it would have been." And I hate telling people that actually, we've done a good thing when they're having to pay a lot more in taxes. But if they wouldn't have protested, they'd be in a far worse situation. And that's what we're trying to do, is just keep the appraisal district in check. DJ says, still haven't gotten his appraisal this year. DJ, you might not if your value didn't go up. Just go to the website here, tad.org, look up your property, and then scroll down here and you'll see this line item right here for 2020. That tells you what your value is worth. This is their opinion of value right there. Noel says, we received our notice and Chandler Crouch Realtors did protest for us last year. Do I need to do anything else? I can tell you this. I say enough positive things about the appraisal district. I'm going to say something negative. They completely screw up their authorization forms. There's 2,000 of them that we should be assigned to that we're not. And we know which ones those are. And we're going back and we're redoing all that. So we know which ones those are, but you'll know if we're set up on your account right here, then that's, then you're good. You don't have to do anything else. But we're like, and we'll let you know if we need a new form signed. So we're going through all those records, refiling documents, and we've just got to constantly keep things in check. Because they're inundated. I don't want to cut them too much slack because they've got to get that straightened out. That's a problem. And it makes us look bad. And that ain't cool. AM says, bought our home last summer and filed homestead exemption in January. Should have the appraised value been lower than market value? Depends, AM. Depends on how much the value went up. The appraised value is only going to be lower if the increase is more than 10%. I'm going to keep going here. Kathy says, this is my first year to use you. I entered my info on your website. Do I need to do anything else? Nope. Kathy, nope, not right now. If you want to just go above and beyond, you can send an email to protest@chandlercrouch.com. That's it. I will have, I'm developing all sorts of technology behind the scenes. Unfortunately, I would like to tell you about additional things you can do, but right now, if you filled out the form, you're good. If you want to just double check, send an email, protest@chandlercrouch.com. Arnleys says, I guess I was one that was one of the 10% unlucky ones. That happens, Arnleys. Cynthia says, my appraised value stayed the same. What does that mean for me? Also, I applied for the homestead for 2019 and it was granted. You are on top of it, Cynthia. Do you think I will get an overall overage payment back? I think so. It just depends. It depends. Also, I applied for homestead for 2019 and it was granted. It depends. I'd have to look specifically at the dates when you filed it and when the stuff was effective. But no, Cynthia, I see Katasha saying definitely no payment back. No, you may get a check in the mail for sure. There's a good possibility if they filed that retroactively and you'd already paid your taxes, then you might. So your escrow account is allowed to keep some cushion in there, but not too much. I used to know the numbers on how much cushion they could keep, but I don't remember. But there's a good chance you'll get a check back. Chandler Crouch Realtors is listed as my rep. Veronica says, when I log in, do I need to do anything else? Nope, Veronica, you are good, and you have verified that you are good. Chandler is my agent. My market value stayed the same from last year, and my appraised value has caught up to the market value. My percent market value change from 2050 was 58%. Jerry, that's insane. Hey, but look, Jerry, you did the right thing by protesting, whether it's us protesting for you or you doing it for yourself. The fact that you protested last year, or we protested for you, is the reason why your value is the same. Good for you. You're on top of your game. Way to go. Ricky says, hey, Chandler, your office did a great job. Thank you so much, Ricky. Dan says, I'm one of the 1538 that went up more than $1. Sorry, Dan. You'll be protesting all that you represent, right? Yes, Jay, I will protest on everybody I represent. If you just want to verify that I represent you, you just go to the tad.org, and you can look and see if it says agent right here. Now, if you just filled out the form for the first time, you're not going to see it updated there because we're sending them several hundred forms every day. And it's just going to, and we're not the only one. We're the biggest, but we're not the only one. So they're processing a lot of forms. So it'll take a little while for that to show up. How does the over 65 exemption work? As of 2020, we have that, but it doesn't seem to have any effect on homes' total market value. You're correct, Ed. It's not going to show up on anything here. In fact, your over 65 exemption, if you scroll down here to the very bottom, you're not even going to see over 65 right here because it's illegal for them to post that due to privacy concerns. Where you'll see that is, I would show you here, but some of the information I would have to show you, I believe, is not information you would want me to air out all over the internet. But if you go, check it out. Go to this page right here, okay? Then go to the value section, and there's a link right here. I like to hold down the control button and hit that. That way it opens in a new window. You come here, and here's this, okay? Then you can go to e-statement, and you'll be able to see how the exemptions have been calculated on your property. The thing that's frozen are these amounts over here, okay? You're not going to see this year's e-statement. You'll see last year's, though, okay? But that's the place you can go. Or at least when you go into protest on the website, it looks different than last year. Kelly, yeah, everything looks a little bit different than last year. Okay, Kelly may be looking at my tutorial and seeing that some of the screenshots look different. Honestly, Kelly, I haven't gone in to do an electronic protest yet. The automated protest, I haven't done that yet this year because they didn't allow it until May 1st, and I've been busy up to my eyeballs since May 1st. So I'll probably update my tutorial at some point and release a new video. But here's the thing. If you want to go protest on your own, just go to the top right corner, click on my account, and log in. And watch my video for step-by-step tutorial, or just follow the prompts that they have there. They're doing everything they can to make it as user-friendly as possible. They have to overcome a little distrust with the public to get people to actually use it, but they're trying their hardest. I think that what they did this year is going to help. It's going to go a long way. Dan says, I would like to think that TAD has or will take into account the North Texas economy declining rate equal to or decline. Yeah, Dan, I think that they did take that into account. It may not show on your specific account, but that's the reason why I wanted to go over these numbers, because it's hard for everybody to know like how much they should hate the appraisal district if they don't have a little bit more of a broad perspective. If you just look at your account, you don't know if they're actually evil or if there was a problem with your specific account. So, you know, I don't know, Dan, you should protest. Let's see here. Iris says, my percent market value change from 2015 is 140%. Whatever you can do to help, I'm going to do it, Iris. Thank you, Cece. Teresa. I see a lot of thank yous. Chris says, yes, you'll protest. Jung Hoon says it really helps. Hold on, I messed up. I'm going to go back in order here. A lot of comments, guys. Holy crap, Molly. Michael Young, I wonder if you're the baseball player. Thank you, Michael. God bless you in your journey. All right, there's CC again. Yeah, I'm gonna try and go faster, guys, because I got a lot of comments. Kelly, the process has changed this year. It's not the same as last year. Kelly, everything's the same except for stuff that I may not have showed you. But if everything I'm saying is true, maybe the automated may be slightly different. I don't know. I need to log in and see. Okay. Teresa, on my appraisal, it showed both values went down. Good for you, Teresa. Lori says, if you protested for us last year, are you automatically doing it this year? Good chance, yes. Go to the Appraisal District website. I'm not going to answer this question anymore because everybody that's heard me answer it 20,000 times is probably getting really sick of me answering it. But go here and look to see if my name shows up there, and that'll tell you. Boom. Jan, good talking with you the other day, Jan. You do my protests each year. Where and when do I send new pictures of property decline? I have got to retool my technology for you, Jan, to be able to make that happen. Now, here's the thing, Jan. The appraisal district, the 3-person panel, everybody is real stingy about how much they allow you to get credit for those photos. If they don't have a number assigned to the amount of value that condition issue represented in the photo actually is, then they have to dream up how much credit they give you for that photo. If you have a repair estimate, that will help a whole lot more. So, Jan, right now is the time to get your repair estimates. Now, with that being said, if we go into protest and they've proposed a value of $300,000, and let's say the comps show that your value should be $310,000, and you only have a value estimate for $5,000 or $9,000. Let's say it's $9,000 worth of foundation work. You know you've got a legitimate repair. Well, guess what? 310,000 minus 9,000 equals 301,000. If they propose a value of 300,000, you're not getting a reduction, and that sucks. But that's how it goes. I'm trying to make it snazzy for entertainment purposes, but that's really a sad situation, Jan. I just wanted to paint the picture for you because you've got to get numbers to justify the value decrease. Glenn says, and if there's not enough numbers, even the market data plays a factor too. We just throw it all into the pot. Glenn says, there are a higher number of homes leased or rented in my neighborhood. Could this be used to lower taxes? Glenn, their theory on this is that if it's going to be, if the number of leased properties in your neighborhood affects property value, then it's sorry, I just realized the Blue Angels are flying over in 6 minutes. I'm going to keep going here. I'm going to record this, and then you can come back and play it. If you need to step out for the Blue Angels, then you'll have to rewatch. You left off at 11:14 a.m. All right. Sorry. They're going to say that the renters affected market value because the sales are going to reflect the reduced property value. Therefore, that specific stat isn't going to help you. You just should, they're just going to say, well, if the property values have gone down, then houses shouldn't be selling for much in your area. Therefore, it's already taken into account by default. The second question is there or are there several apartment complexes being built nearby? Will my taxes remain high or go higher to pay for these? It depends on if they got any abatements. If the apartment complexes are publicly funded, then possibly, or new roads could cause, I don't know how the new roads are funded. I guess some counties are in charge of roads, so that'll play into the county budget. More schools, yes. Guys, watch those bond programs. The school district tax is made up of two different sides. You have an M&O tax, which is maintenance and operations, and you have a INS, which is everything else. So you've got the bond packages for the school side. And so watch out what you agree to on those bond elections. We all love teachers. We all love students. We're all pro-education, but we shouldn't spend out the nose. So take a second look at those bonds. New roads, more schools to handle population increases. Yeah. Look, if they're building an apartment complex, you're not having to pay for the apartment complex. Some developer is going to do that. But you may have, infrastructure to necessitate the population increase. Priscilla says, do you recommend protesting now or waiting a day or two before June 1st? Doesn't matter at all, Priscilla. I would say the sooner the better, because if you don't file it soon, you're going to be caught in the log jam of paperwork that they can't get out the other side, and it'll take forever for your protest to get done. Go ahead and send it on. Do the instant approval first. That's what I recommend. Tracy says, I don't have the option button to press to see my value notice. And Tracy, that is because you did not get a value notice, either because they didn't propose a value or because your value increase was less than $1,000. If you go here and this number says 0, then that means they just haven't given you a value for this year. If the difference between these two values is less than $1,000, you're just not going to get a value notice because the change didn't trigger the law that requires them to send that out. Linda, big old question. I'm going to read every word of it. My 2020 market value went up $60,000, which also raised, I'm going to do this. I'll take it off. All right. My 2020 market value went up $60,000, which also raised my appraised value. Most of my increase was on land value. I protested several years ago when they more than doubled my land value, explaining that the major hub of the city, the sewer system across the backyard of the property, so they shouldn't be taxed on that, which means there was an easement. I even have a sewer manhole cover in the fenced yard. That sucks. At the time, they lowered my land value, but it now have been increased again. I'm at a high-risk group and cannot physically go protest, probably saying, please help, but my message cuts off. Linda, you have... the market value increase is the only thing that we can really protest. How much they attribute to land versus improvement is irrelevant. The fact that you have that sewer issue, if it is affecting your property, if it's only on your property, then that is something that would be evidence. Now we have to figure out how much that affects your property value. Those are things that I've spent a great deal of time on, because when we know that it affects property value, but yet the data is hard to come by to justify exactly how much, then it's difficult. What we do is we go try and do research to find properties that have that same exact issue, and then we compare those with other sales nearby to figure out a percentage decrease of how much it affected those other sales. So if, however, the sewer issue, it cuts across not only your property, but all your neighbors, then that won't matter at all, because they're going to think, well, houses have been selling in your area with the same issue. So it's reflected in the sales price. But there you go. Katie says, I filed my protest. I contacted an appraiser at TAD. And what do they mean when they say you can't protest the appraised value, only the market value? They stated that my market value stayed the same, only my appraised value increased. Does that mean I can't protest? Katie, that is a great question. Let's go here. That's something I hear all the time. What you did is you went in and you said, I need to protest, and I want to protest my appraised value, because me and you speak good English and we know what the word appraised means. Unfortunately, TAD speaks appraisal district language and they don't know what the word appraised means. They think it means homestead cap value. They chose the wrong word. You're trying to protest this number. This number is not protestable, because this is not actually an appraised value. It has nothing to do with an appraisal whatsoever. This means that this is it's literally, they put the wrong word on the website. It's the homestead capped value. So if you just think of it in those terms, it's a homestead capped value. It is just something that the homestead exemption affects. Their opinion of the value is this number. If you did not have a homestead exemption filed on the property, these two numbers would be exactly the same. Okay. Because you've got a homestead exemption, that's knocking off a lot of money off of your taxable value. But what's going to happen is if the amount of increase between this and this is less than 10%, between this number and this number, if it's less than 10%, then the next year those values are going to be exactly the same. So you can't, the way that you lower this number over here is by protesting this number a level below. Let me show you with my hands. Okay. Remove, add to the stream, take that off. There we go. All right. So if they value your property at $200,000, okay, then they say that it went up. Hold on here. Then they say that it went up to $240,000. Well, guess what? 200. I know it's $20,000, but okay. So if your value was $200,000 one year, then the next year it went up to $240,000. What happens is the appraised value over here, this number is going to cap out at a 10% increase. So this number will go up to, these numbers will actually stay the same unless this number increases to more than 10%. So then this number will cap out at 10%. So bink, that one caps out, the other one still goes up. Okay, if this number doesn't change, I'm wearing out, guys. Here, let me show you the answer. I do a better job talking with my hands on this video. Watch this. You're gonna be able to rewind this one. Get to it. freetaxreference.com/video. I need the Blue Angels, and I need more Bob Ross. Hold on. That'll help. Okay. Scroll down here. Market value versus appraised value. This is your answer right here. I'm going to go ahead and link to this right there. What can I do? Post a comment. Bam. I don't know where that's going to post, but market value versus appraised value, you'll be able to see that somewhere. Okay. There you go. Sorry for the bailout on that answer. All right, let's keep going. Michael says, should I try the automated market value review, 99% lower value first, then sign up on your website and see what the problem? Michael, all right, if you try to do the automated protest and then if you try to do the automated protest and they don't give you a number that you like, then you hire me hoping I'm going to do better than what they did. You're putting me in a position to fail because I don't know that you got offered a number and I don't know how good it was. Sometimes they give homeowners better offers. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes I get much better offers than they get. And sometimes homeowners get something different. And the reason why is because it's based off of an algorithm. I have no idea. But you just have to realize if you go and you do the automated protest and they offer you a reduction, if they don't offer you a reduction, then yeah, it doesn't hurt. Go ahead and don't accept anything. Just then hire me. Okay. But if they offer you a reduction and then you just want to see if I can do better, you just have to realize you're running a risk that what if I don't? Because I have no idea what they offered you. And I'm doing mine based on data behind the scenes here on what the data adds up to. So you just have to realize what you're doing there. And it's okay. Well, you do whatever you want. As long as you understand the situation, that's fine. I'm happy to help as much as I can. In some cases, I'm able to get people remarkable reductions. It's just that I'm not charging anything. So if you're not happy, I can't give you a refund. And that puts me in a position where I was like, I think you get it. Allison says, I looked at my info and it shows that my homestead exemption is there. Taxes went up 25% and I did not get any money back. Who should I contact? This is my first year with my house. Taxes. So Allison, the vocabulary you use is really important. You say taxes went up 25%. So whenever I read that, I think that means the actual amount of money you have to pay on your out of pocket. That could be attributable to the tax rate going up. So Allison, I don't know if there's anything that they can do. If your appraised value went up more than 25% in a year that your homestead exemption should have been applied to, then as long as it's applied retroactively, they'll send you a check automatically, or they'll send it to your escrow account. So it's hard to find somebody to hold accountable on that specific process because the appraisal district says all we do is come up with the values, and the tax assessor says all we do is we just do the math and send out the bill. They don't come up with the values. They don't do anything with the exemptions. So you just kind of have to wait. Adam says, I've only been in my new built home for 8 months. Should I protest even though I live in a new area where it splits between Saginaw and Fort Worth? Absolutely. The fact that you live in a new area doesn't matter. If you've only been in your house for 8 months, then that means that you purchased your house last year, most likely, and you have a settlement statement. Whereas you can just send it, if they're taxing you above the amount you purchased your house for, you can just send your settlement statement into the appraisal district, res@tad.org, and they will lower the value for you. Okay. If you're being taxed on an amount lower than you paid for your house, then you are winning. And that does happen sometimes. And so in that situation, no need to do anything. Let's see here. Buddy says, you handled my property tax last year and I want you to handle it this year. One thing I'd like to know, on my street, 2 houses down, is a business that does a lot of business with a lot of traffic on my street. Could this be used in lowering my property taxes in my protest? Buddy, the hard thing is to try and attribute a value to what that does. For sure, the appraisal term that we focus on in a situation like that is road noise, because that's been deemed legitimate for some reason. And so Beyond that, we may be able to prove that there is a dip in property values around that business due to that traffic. But here's the problem, buddy. If the appraised district has a couple sales in an area that would be affected by that traffic, and the sales show that the sale prices are still pretty high, then no matter what we show them, they'll say, well, I understand there's road noise, I understand there's traffic, I understand there's issues, but this house right here is still sold for an arm and a leg. Therefore, I don't think it's playing a factor on your home value. So it just kind of depends, buddy. I don't have the option button to view documents. Tracy, the reason is either because they haven't valued your property yet, or because the amount of increase was less than $1,000. Cheryl says she just bought a second home, and will be in closing on it tomorrow. I noticed that the new 2020 proposed property tax has increased by 20%. Will we be able to protest it? Here's the funny thing, Cheryl. Anybody can protest anybody's account or file a protest on anybody's account. So even though you didn't own the house January 1st, you will now own it. I would say go ahead and still file a protest, see what you can do. See what you can do. I don't know. It just kind of depends on how they view it. That's kind of a gray area, but for sure, file the protest. Joshua says, you protested last year. Just to let you know, I got my blue form in the mail yesterday. There you go. So Joshua, be on the lookout. That might mean that we're not attached to the account anymore. I don't know. But Joshua says we protested and he got the value notice. All right. Glenn says, I might have missed something earlier in the video. My total market value stayed the same from last year, but my total appraised value increased by at least $25,000 last year. Yeah, covered that one. Kelly, our protest automated again this year. We got 3% off last year by doing an automated system, but this year the protest website looks different and it doesn't seem to be clear cut as it was. I haven't actually looked at the automated system yet, Kelly. I can't speak to that. Rachel says, you protested for me last year. Thank you for all the work you do. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for helping. Guys, help spread the word. Help to spread the word. There are a lot of people being affected by this that don't know the information. They're not on this live stream. They haven't signed up with us, and they don't know what to do. They think that the government's going to get them if they protest. They think that they shouldn't protest because it's going to hurt market value. By the way, I got a video for that. It's not true. You just go freetaxprotest.com/videos. Then you can look at will protesting affect the market value? Okay, it doesn't. Spread the word, guys. Let's see here. Spread the word. Attach my message. Okay. Attached to my message above, my value went up $8,000. Allison, I'm not going to be able to look at that on Facebook. Trust me, we're sitting here looking at the numbers in a spreadsheet. If it went up, we know it, but we're going to do everything we can to protest it down. Joyce, thank you for protesting for us all. Thank you. We truly appreciate you. Let's see. Oh my goodness, guys. A lot of repeat questions. I'm just not going to do any more repeat questions because it's going to wear out those 68 people that are still left watching at this point. The best part is that there's some TAD board members also. School member. All right, hold on. The best part is that some TAD board members are also members of the school district boards or other tax receiving entities. So they get to affect it from both sides. Now, Noel, you raise an interesting point there. If we've got a good person that's on both boards, that's a great thing. And they're all volunteers. They're not getting paid. So I'm not going to say that anybody's a bad person in there. If they're volunteering their time to try and do good for their community, I'm going to say bravo to you. I might disagree, but bravo to you because you're doing more than most people. But I will also say, I think it's a little bit weird to have somebody on a school district board setting the budget according to the values that the appraisal district establishes, that it's going to directly affect what percentage increase they can get. So I don't know. No, I kind of like the lines to be clean, but I also see your perspective and I appreciate you sharing it because I agree with you. If you've got a good person, like I want that good person to do as much good as they can. Being on both boards would be good in that situation. However, I'm more of like wanting the conflict of interest to stop because we've seen some issues with that. D, to know if you are still in the system, ready to protest, you go to here, and you can verify by looking right here. Okay. If I'm listed there, then that's it. Glenn Paxton. Isn't Glenn Paxton famous? Glenn says he found the answer to his question. I think I'm thinking of the Attorney General. Do I need to fill out the form every year? Since you will be protesting for me, are we still able to try the automated level ourselves? Yeah, you can still try it yourself, I think. Give it a shot. Let me know. Just don't. It puts me in a weird position, but you need to do what's best for you. So do the automated if you want, and let me know how it goes. Jillian, signed in late. All right, my house falling apart. Not even sure it's worth $10. What do I do about this? Do I send photos now? How and when? Chad, it just depends, but just hang on to your photos. I'm going to have to send an email to everybody telling you how to upload documents. It's I've got to have a good way to keep that organized. The technology I used last year isn't going to cut it this year. So Chad, just hang on to that. I'll send you an email. Lewis, my values increased across the board. Improvement value increased. I assume due to a new roof. That's not going to do it. What would cause the land value to increase? Look, guys, the appraisal district tries to attribute value to land and improvements separately, or they take the market value. Look, let me show you. They go here, they take this market value. Then they try to break it down and say, okay, how much of that market value is actually the land and how much was the improvement? You can't do that. There's no way to actually do the math to figure this out. They do have some comps that they'll try and use. About once every 3 years, they'll revalue land. Last year happened to be one of those years. But you can't really do anything with your protests that really affects these numbers. The number to focus on is this one right here, the market value. And they're not going to adjust that because of a new roof. They expect your roof to be in good working condition. So your value probably increased because people have bought houses for a significant amount of money more than what you were being taxed at last year. Thank you, Pam. Stephen, what's up, Stephen? He calls me the mayor. I am the mayor of Tarrant County, if you didn't know. D says, you're wonderful to help so many. Thank you. Good information. Thank you, Veronica. Teresa says, thank you for the live session. Thank you. D says, why did the value of my house nearly double? D, it's because people are moving to your area, paying an arm and a leg for houses. They're all from California. I can guarantee it. We got to keep the Californians out. Don't turn my Texas, California. All right. Bridget says, I filed for a homestead exemption and veteran exemption last year, but TAD doesn't show it on the site. What should I do? I refile. Go to homestead, chandlercross.com/homestead. There's a little tutorial there. I can't go here. I've already showed this once, but I'm going to show it again just for you. Go to TAD's home screen. Then there is a little news article that they link to right here. Click that. And then you'll see some very handy phone numbers that they have put in. So here's the exemptions department is, I'm going to put this in here. I'm just going to paste it. Hopefully you'll see this. I'm not sure, but exemptions 817-284-4063 or exemptions@tad.org. That's where you would go to get info on that. All right. All right, guys. I think I'm going to just wrap it up here. It's hard to protest if you just bought the new home that was built in. Is it hard to protest if you just bought a new home that was built in 2020? It's a little bit more to that answer. If you owned the land before 2020 and then you just constructed the house in 2020, then the appraisal district does not know how much you paid for everything. They just see that the house is now there, and they're going to use some comps to come up with that value. Unless you provide additional information. Most people don't do it that way, though. Most people buy the land and the house all together and build it, as a package cost, and there's a solid sales price. And then there's a deed of trust filed. And so it looks more like a traditional sale. If you're being taxed at more than you purchased the home for, then it is very easy to protest. In fact, it doesn't get any easier. You just send in your settlement statement, res@tad.org, and they'll take care of that for you. Chandler, the 2 times you've won on my behalf, is the district supposed to refund that amount back to my mortgage company? The last time I spoke with my mortgage company, they said they never received a refund back from my escrow account. Great question, Charlene. Here's what happens. Your property tax bill is calculated using this formula right here. It's your property value minus your exemptions multiplied by your tax rate equals the tax bill. So just because we got this down doesn't mean that the tax bill automatically goes down. Your tax rate could go up. And here's the other thing. What if your value was $300,000? What if they proposed $300,000? Let's say last year it was $280,000. This year they're proposing $300,000. What if we get them down to $290,000? Guess what? We got them down to $290,000, but last year was $280,000. That means it still went up. So you could have multiple factors at play there. Okay. Let's see. I've got a whoopsie daisies. Let's see. All right. Charlene said, Clay says, Clay, thanks for taking up for me, bud. Linda, if only the market value is lowered. Thank you, Linda. On there, everybody's getting educated, answering questions. I can just feel the love. Way to go, guys. Spread the news. Spread the help. And if people don't want the help, just send them on over my direction. I'll do it for them for free. Do I still have time to do a homestead on my property? Yes, George. They want you to get that in by April 30th, but you can do it anytime. If you need help with that, chandlercrouch.com/homestead. Jordan says, can I still protest even though I bought my house last year? I've already answered that one. How does a pool affect protests? Here's what happens, Rich. It kind of depends on how much your property value is. They have bracketed values that they assign to pools. I believe they probably change it every year. Last year, your pool, according to them, was either worth $7,000 or $12,000 or some bracket, depending on if they say that the quality of your home is good, fair, poor, or excellent. And so it does affect protests. What it'll do is they'll add an adjustment to your property. It could just be a $7,000 adjustment. So if they see a similar house that sold for the same amount as yours, except yours has a pool, yours is going to be whatever that value is plus 7. Our market value increased over $42,000. Holy crap. I want to protest. I'm sure I want to chop someone's head off. How can I estimate the appropriate value for the protest? Comparable sales. That's the best way to do it. What did other properties sell for? Look, the home you purchased last summer, the increase has actually, this is for AMW. If you bought the house last year, the amount of increase is irrelevant. If you're being taxed at a level more than you purchased the house for, then you just send them your settlement statement and they'll lower it to the purchase price. Okay. If you're being taxed at amounts below what you purchased it for, even if it was much, much higher than it was the year before, you can't get any better than that. So if you purchased your house last summer, the sales price is going to be the number that they go off of, and they're going to ignore just about everything else. You work so hard. What's your goal? Javier, my goal, it's a great question. Thank you for that. I work so hard. What's my goal? Look, Javier, what you don't know is I'm on here protesting, trying to help as many people as I possibly can because I see that the system is screwed up. I thank God for the ability to have the knowledge and the ambition to be able to organize an effort to help people. That's something I realize I'm lucky to have. So I'm just trying to put the gifts of the grace that I've been given by God to be able to do this. I'm just trying to help a bunch of people. But I don't want to just help you by protesting this year because that doesn't actually fix the problem. It might fix it for you, but it doesn't fix the underlying issues that are causing the problems. So I actually worked with Representative Matt Krause, it's a state representative, and our kids play together and stuff. So one time I saw him, and I was a couple years ago, and I was like, "Hey, Matt, don't know you that well. I know you're a politician. It's kind of, I don't, like, I don't know how to feel about politicians. I know, but I was just like, hey man, can you teach me how to change this stuff, how to teach this stuff long-term? He said, yeah, absolutely. I hear that you're doing a lot of good for people. I want to help you. So I was like, cool. So we went and had lunch together. He invited me to lunch. We went and had lunch together. I don't know if he does this for everybody, but the dude picked up the bill, which blew my mind. I'm like, man, I'm taking your time. And anyway, and I sat down and I said, hey, look, here's all the problems that I see with the property tax system. And here's some proposed solutions. And he said, you know what? Those look like some good ideas. Let's write a bill. And I'm like, okay, I don't even know what that means. And he just went on. He said, hey, let's write a tax bill. And I didn't know whether to believe it. Some people get ambitious and then they get overwhelmed and get distracted. And I don't know. I didn't know how far to put it. So I just kind of suspended judgment. It's like, well, yeah, that's a really exciting lunch to have. Holy moly. And then let me just fast forward a year later. He put me in contact with his staff and said, Chandler, give them the ideas that you gave me. When they give you revisions, I want you to look at them and see if it's the way you had it done. Then he's going to review everything. We'll talk about everything. And then we went through that whole process and he submitted the bill. And wouldn't you know, the darn thing got passed. Bingo. It was awesome. Now, I learned a lot about the process. We got to do it again. I hope Matt's on board to do it again. But you need to know Matt Krause is on board to fix this stuff, and not in a way that like he's on board. He's like willing to do whatever. And I'm just, the issue is, Javier, I'm trying to fix the whole system. There's issues that need to be fixed, and I'm trying to fix the whole system. This is just what we're doing during protests. Something else that we did, the level is on multiple different levels. It's on a very personal level between you and your property value notice, and we're trying to fix that on a case-by-case situation. But also, each appraisal district has their own issues. I see that there's some weird things that were happening at TAD with the election of the board of directors. And I thought, you know what, that election process needs some transparency. And so I played a role in trying to be transparent. I thought it's not good for the same exact board members that get elected year after year after year after year, making no judgment about the board members that sat on the board. I don't know if they were bad or good. I have no idea, really. All I know is, if there are problems, which obviously there are, we can't expect change if the people in charge don't change seats every now and then. So I played a role in helping to bring some transparency to that whole system. And there's a group, Empower Texans, that played a role in that as well, just trying to publish some stuff. For some reason, local newspapers, local TV stations, nobody wanted to cover the Appraisal District Board of Directors election, even though it was obvious to me the whole system is rigged on how to get people in there. And I'm like, making no personal judgment about anybody. The system itself was jacked up. So I tried to fix that. We got 3 new people on the board, which they haven't had any massive seat changes in a while. We had 3 new people on the board, including the chairman. Now we'll see how it goes. I hear some very promising things at the appraisal district. And by the way, the appraisal district is being very responsive to the things that they're being held accountable on. And that's it, man. Javier, I'm just in touch with a lot of people that have a lot of issues with their property tax bill going up. And I see the same thing you see, and what everybody sees is the whole system is jacked up. It's broken. It needs to be fixed. And I am in a position to have the knowledge and the ability and the infrastructure to be able to help do something about it. And so God put me on this earth to make a difference, and this is the area that I'm focused on. That's the long story. Since you hung on for an hour and 42 minutes through this live stream, assuming you're still here, Adam, can extending my fence to where it taps around the other side of my house, because I have a corner lot, will that affect the value to go up? No, Adam, that's not going to affect anything. I would just call 811 to make sure that you are not putting your fence through some kind of easement or whatever that you shouldn't be doing. Check the lines underneath. Be careful where you dig, that sort of thing. And then there's going to possibly be some deed restrictions. Just drive around the neighborhood. Easy way to do it. Drive around the neighborhood. See if any neighbors have extended their fence to the same level. And if they have, you're probably safe. But go ahead and call 811. It's free. It's kind of cool. Catherine, if you protested for us last year, just confirming you'll automatically protest for us this year. Yes, go to I'm going to tell this probably every time because I want people to be able to verify this stuff. Go to the Appraisal District website and look to see if I'm on the account. I'm probably there. Whoops, probably there. But just go here and look at right here. If I show up right there, then I'm on there. All right. I feel like for the 66 people that are still hanging on, I need to do something nice for you because you've got some endurance. Michelle says, is it too late for you to protest? Not at all. The deadline is the end of this month. And so sign up with me or do it yourself. Either way, go for it. Now's the time to move. You're perfect timing. D says her value increased by 10%. Will you be protesting for me again? Yes, absolutely. As long as I'm listed where I've shown 10 times. Robert says, are you able to help if the website shows the incorrect square footage? It's showing, this is a great question, Robert. It's showing 400 square feet different, more than actual. I sign up all right. Robert, if your square footage is not accurate, then the question I have is what's making you think it's not accurate? There's probably an appraisal that you have. And if you have an appraisal showing a lower square footage, then you can email that most likely to res@tad.org and just say, hey, can you adjust my square footage to be accurate? And they'll do that for you. That's not going to make a tremendous amount of difference, but it will make some difference. Jung-hoon, you got it, man. Thanks for sticking around to hear the answer. M, mine went up $28,000 while surrounding neighbors barely went up. You helped us last year. Hopefully you can help us this year too. M, there is probably a reason why it went up so much. I don't know what that is, but I would love to check it out. Look, guys, I'm into tea right now. And the thermos that I was using wasn't big enough. Watch this mug. It's the coolest thing in the world. That's Bob Ross. And as you put hot water in it, look at this. I just filled this thing up with hot water, so I have to leave my chair to get more. It's comical. This is what's fueling your protests. It's good old Pu'er tea. And you'll see here in a moment that hopefully that thermos is staying hot. It's my first day to use it. So I'll hold this up for entertainment purposes. Gosh, dog, I hope it's so hot. Jermaine, sorry, I can't remember what you said earlier. My values didn't change from 2019. Okay, protest again. Yeah, absolutely, Jermaine, protest. Cynthia says, look, the mountains are showing up. Are there any repairs that will be allowed to lower your appraisal value? Yes, Stephanie. This is an area that I'm currently working to fight on. And I have never once had the appraisal district honor a cosmetic repair value, whatever, a quote for cosmetic repair. Never once. I brought this to the attention of Jeff Law, chief appraiser. He's been very responsive. And he looked at me very cross, thinking something went wrong. And they said that they are supposed to take those into consideration. He was going to talk to his staff. I'll tell you this. Look, a lot of people have things to say about him, but that dude's been very responsive to me. And if you protest with items that affect your market value, even if they're cosmetic in nature and they don't give you credit for it, we should probably assemble a little bit of pressure to help get that taken care of. I will say this, in all likelihood, it's going to need to be foundation, roof related, plumbing related, electrical related, non-landscaping, non-cosmetic stuff to actually get the thing fixed. So I'm going to be, look, all right. So the mountains have shown up. There he is. That's Bob Ross painting on all right. Anita says, my values are the same as last year. Are you still going to try and lower them? Yes, I will protest for everybody. JR, I am still only protesting in Tarrant County. I've protested in Dallas and Denton in the past, but I'm not able to do all those counties because it adds a level of complexity to everything we're doing. And last year we protested for 16,800 people, and I owe a commitment to them and to my homeland in Tarrant County. Since I'm mayor of Tarrant County, tongue in cheek, I owe it to my peeps here. Geez. My value has gone up 75% since 2015. We have not done nothing except add a fence. It's because, Stephanie, it's because everybody's paying an arm and a leg for your house or for houses in the area. D says, I don't see you listed on TAD. My value did go up 10%. Should I go sign up with you again to be safe? Yes, absolutely, D. Just go ahead and sign up. Freetaxprotest.com. CC says, is there a disability exemption? If so, where do you file? Yes, CC, there is a disability exemption. It's going to be the same exact form that you use for a homestead exemption. Go to chandlercrouch.com/homestead to find it. And I'll show you real quick where that's at. All right, I'm just going to pull this up. chandlercrouch.com/homestead. It's weird to me that they put, I guess it's kind of good that they put all these exemptions on one form. It keeps us from having to chase down a bunch of new forms, but this will pop up for me here in a second, I believe. And here we go. The disability exemption is on here as well. There are a few exemptions that aren't on here. See, 100% disabled veteran is here. If you have, if you're a disabled veteran and you're not 100%, if you're something less than that, there is a different form for you. But here's disabled person right there. You'll notice that my form is slightly different than the form you'll find on tad.org. And it's just because the state comptroller provides these forms that are acceptable all over the state. Well, TAD also, they might have some forms that are maybe a little bit different, but it provides the same function. They're all acceptable. You can find all the TAD forms here. There's all sorts of, if you own a cemetery, that sort of thing. Becca, hard for me to do anything with the list of values you put in there. Tony, will you still send those out whose value have decreased? Values decreasing do not get value notices. That's not me doing that. That the appraisal district will not send you a value notice if your appraisal decreased. Okay. Should I protest if I just bought a new home that was built in 2020? We've already talked about that. Marcia, I turned 65 this year. I am also the widow of a disabled person, so I can qualify for one or the other exemptions. Do you know which one would be better? Marcia, I don't know that you have to, I don't know the answer to that question, Marcia, but I don't believe you have to pick and choose. I believe that you can get everything, but I could be wrong. Go to that exemptions at tad.org is where I would go to email that question to. Jennifer, should I keep going? I've gone this long. Might as well, right? She's shaking her head.
You're doing a good job.
There's 59 people that still have questions, so I'll keep on answering. I do have a meeting. I think it's at 2 though, so we're good. All right. How many emails we got in the inbox over there?
309.
We've got 309 emails. Yesterday, we began the day. We had 3 people replying to emails, and we ended the day with more emails than we started with because they're coming in so fast. I mean, it was actually pretty close. Okay. I'm getting you the email address for the exemptions department, and I'm drinking my Bob Ross tea while I'm doing that. It is exempt at tad.org, exempt at tad.org. Leisha, thank you for finally joining. Crystal Jackson, can you take neighborhood appraisal notices that are comparable to your home that are valued much less than yours by the tax authorities as evidence? Crystal, that is a great question. Let me see if I can answer your question. I'm going to give you more than you bargained for. Need to see the back of the value notice to answer this question. Example back of TAD value notice coming right up. Okay. So here you go. Let me find my window. I will share screen. There we go. This is the back of the value notice. The question that Crystal asked is, can you take other people's value notices and use it as evidence? Well, the answer is more complicated than you might imagine. This is going to be something very similar to what's on the back of your value notice. Right here it says check reasons for your protest, okay? You can check all of these boxes. In Tarrant County, what this does for you is if you check for each box you check, that actually files a separate protest. So there are different reasons why you can be protesting. One reason is, this is the main reason we talk about, is that it's the incorrect appraised value or market value. Holy crap, they just throwing that terminology around like it doesn't mean anything. It's the incorrect market value. The other one is value is unequal compared to other properties. So here's what's going on. The difference between these two, it's subtle, but it is significant. If you believe that they are valuing your property at a level that is higher than what your home is actually worth, that's this first one. Okay. The way that you provide evidence for that is you look at what other houses have sold for in the area. And then you also look at condition issues. Okay. And you use those things as evidence. The next one here says value is unequal compared to other properties. This is the second most common type of protest. It's a lot less common because you have to use the appraisal district's data against them, and they've got their own data. They come up with their own data. They're good with their data. But this is just saying that you think that how they taxed your neighbors compared to yours is unfair. They're doing it on an unequal basis. Be careful, because what that's saying is that says nothing in regard to what the value of your home, what your home is actually worth. It makes no statement about what your home is actually worth. It just makes a statement as to whether or not they're taxing you guys using the same equal basis of logic and reasoning. Okay. And so this is where we can play games, and the commercial property owners play games all day long, is they can say, well, that guy over there got taxed at a whole lot less than me. I don't care what my house is worth. You can't tax him at that value without giving me the same kind of value. So that's where you can take the appraisal notice or value notice in and do some good. Now I'm going to give you guys some advanced information on how to do those type of protests. If you want to do some research and want to find it for everybody, here's what you do. You go to tad.org and you look up your property. Okay. Then you'll come here, you'll find all this. Then you scroll right down here. You'll see this thing that says neighborhood code. The neighborhood code is a Tarrant County appraisal district invention that it's where they draw the lines on different neighborhoods. And by the way, they change those lines according to how it serves their goals. And but that's what they focus on. They focus on just the properties within that same neighborhood boundary whenever they're doing their unequal protest. So you go here. This will show you how to look at every single property tax value in your neighborhood, and you can download those results. Yesterday, I brought to their attention that there's a button right here that's missing that was there last year, and it used to say comprehensive, and where you get basically all the detail about all the properties in the neighborhood. Now they just give you this basic number, and they do that. Let's see here. Actually, I was thinking, let me open this for you and just show you. So once you look here, this is all public data. You come here and you can see all of the accounts. You can see when they bought their house. You can see this says appraised value. What you're looking for is the total value right here. This is the notified value. Okay, so you can look to see what they're doing for their house, for proposing for values. Okay, and you can see that out of all these properties, these are the guys that got value notices. They're all these folks. Okay, these people did not get a value notice for one reason or another. But you can start to do the work there. You want to make sure you're comparing properties that are with similar year built and similar square footage. These are all ones that have swimming pools. So the appraisal district wants you to come in, and they'll want you to do adjustments to show if this one's a lot bigger than yours or smaller than yours, then you have to adjust to compensate for that stuff. And the way that those adjustments are done is tricky, but I've got it figured out. It took quite a bit of analysis. When the appraisal district provides evidence of what their value is, they give you comps. It looks almost identical to this. The reason why it looks identical to this is because I copied every single I analyze the color on the form that they provide. I analyze the font style. I analyze everything. And I also analyze how they do the math for their adjustments. I could go into detail on every little field and tell you how they adjust all their properties, but that's what happens. They get on here and then they'll adjust. If your property is, let's look. Well, I don't have any data in here to show you what the math is, but see, this one was built in 2013 and the subject property is built in 2014. So they'll adjust half of 1% of the value and then do the math down here and they come up with all this stuff. I'm showing you the complex side of it, but what you need to know is just that if you can just look at it anecdotally and say, well, the houses that are similar value are getting taxed at a higher level, then you should feel good about the level you're taxed at. If they're getting taxed at a lower level than you, then you can use them for evidence. But there you go. All right, guys, I got to wrap this up because I've been going forever, and the longer I stay on here, the longer. Oh, let's talk about Jerry. Jerry says, my earlier comment on age 65 exemptions came directly from this year's form. I have a copy and applied for the homestead exemption age 65 back in January and was approved. Awesome, Jerry. Rock on. Robert Castaneda, thank you for the clarification on that. I signed up for your service yesterday. Are you able to help if the approximate size is off by 400 square feet? The property card is incorrect. Robert, yes, I need you to email me that evidence. Just protest@chandlercrouch.com. What makes you think it's off by $400? What documentation do you have to prove that it's off by $400? If it's an actual appraisal, good chance I'll be able to do something about it. If it's not an actual appraisal, they may not see the documentation as legitimate. But send it on over. Adam, so I just made a login and noticed there's not a homestead exemption. I know I filed the form earlier this year in February because I bought a newly built home in August last year. Should I call and ask why the holdup? Adam, I might as well email them over and see. exempt@tad.org. Might as well. Not going to hurt anything. Barney, the mortgage company paid the taxes for the current year and next created an escrow shortage, making mortgage payments increase. He's never been late. Complained to the state, and they sold me to another mortgage company with a slap on their wrist, but mortgage is still going up because of their mistake. What can I do? Let me read this again, Barney. The mortgage company paid for taxes for the current year, which created an escrow shortage, which made his mortgage payments increase. All that sounds unfortunate and common. You complain to the state. I don't know what the complaint would be. I know the complaint. I get it. I get it. But I don't think that, just according to what you wrote there, everything that they did is within their legal right to do. And that doesn't make it okay, but you'd have to change a law. Complained to the state. They told me another mortgage company with a slap on their hand, wrist, but I don't fully understand the question, Brene. Whenever they pay the property taxes for a year, if there's not enough money in the property tax account, they'll still pay it. And then they'll just increase your mortgage payment. There are a number of things you can do if they've increased your mortgage payment. Number one, call the mortgage company that you're with that's servicing the loan and say, hey, I know there's an escrow shortage, but what happens is they put you on a 12-month payment plan. Ask them if they'll spread it out over 2 years. You usually do not have to provide a hardship at all. You just ask the question, will you spread out my escrow shortage over a 2-year period of time? And they'll just do it. Okay. The next thing is protest. The next thing after that is to get a quote on your homeowner's insurance. Most people don't know this, but now for those of you that have hung on for 2 hours, I will tell you, we're actually an insurance company too. We can help you with that. Email me, protest@chandlercrouch.com. Tell me you want a free quote on your insurance. We will hook it up. We can't help tons of people right now because we are still building staff on that side of things. But we can help a few of you. Well, send an email. We'll help. There's only 50 people on right now, so probably be okay. Can you help me with my property? Just moved to Arlington, moved there in September. Not sure if we can protest or not. Pablo, you're more than welcome. Just fill out a form. We'll do everything we can. freetextprotest.com. D, you got your blue notice. I'm not on your form for some reason. Yeah, go ahead. Fill out the document. Fill it out again. D, freetaxprotest.com. Will you still protest even if I already have a reduction? Absolutely, Kurt. I will still protest. You have protested the last 2 years for me, so thank you. For us single income people, any help is appreciated. Thank you, Trish. JR, still, yes, only Tarrant County. What documentation is needed for you to fight my taxes? The only thing that's absolutely necessary is for you to fill out the form. We can take care of the rest. Need to send your car payment in. I don't know, Eric. I don't know. I don't know where the car payment comment comes from. Good morning, Ernest. D, that is very cool to hear about Matt Krause. Yes, Michael said, should I try the automated value? We've already talked about that. I sent 2 people your way. Awesome, Rita. Thank you. Spread the wealth. AMW, can you, if you protest, can they actually increase your appraised value? Before this year, the answer was yes. Now they passed a law where they cannot increase your value if you're protesting. So that's good. I'd figured out how to make sure they couldn't increase the value regardless, but it was legally allowed before this year. And it actually happened to me one time several years ago, and I learned my lesson pretty quick. It was not pleasant. Can you still protest if the value stayed the same? Absolutely. Do you keep track of all the wins? Yes, Ralph, absolutely. Do you know? Oh, I don't keep track of the automated protest anymore. Ralph, 2-3 years ago, all we were doing was the automated protest, and I was tracking the stats on that because it's just a computer algorithm that determines what the pass fail rate is and where they draw the lines on those. And I quit tracking that because we quit going that route. Eric, if you have been protesting for us, do you need to sign up again? Go ahead and sign up anyway, but you just go to tad.org and look to see if I'm listed as your agent. All you have to do is look to see if I'm right there. Okay. And that'll take care of it. Thank you, Chandler. God bless you, Carrie. Bob, I got a blue notice form. The value went down. Not sure what to do. Celebrate and protest anyway. Jessica, just to join, are the values this year already out? Yes, they are. For a lot of people, not everybody. Surviving spouse with disability exemption. Let's see here. Thank you for answering the questions. They paid twice in the same year. Oh, Brene, they paid twice in the same year. Brene, they'll send you an escrow refund. The tax assessor isn't going to keep it. They'll send you an escrow refund. I know that doesn't help to with your cash flow issue because now you're out all that money. Ask them to spread out your escrow shortage over a 2-year period of time. That's the least they can do. If they won't do it, holler at me. I can put, I mean, that's an issue that depending on who the servicer is, there's some servicers out there, Freedom Mortgage and Mr. Cooper already kind of have a bad name in my mind because they don't honor the tax deferral thing, and they've put some people in a really bad spot, and they've got some bad press. And I know some journalists that probably love to get hold of any more bad press on those guys because I think they need to change their policies. Not saying they're bad. I don't know. I'm just saying there's a couple policies that need to be changed. Let's see here. Bob, I don't know the question about your surviving spouse thing. I don't know. I haven't gone deep into that, but you're not over 65. There is I don't know. You're going to have to ask your question to Tad on that. I just haven't gone deep into the surviving spouse thing. Melanie Stein. Yes, we received ours today. There we go. Have paid for it the past few years. Can you assist? What do you need and where should I send it? Bobby, freetaxprotest.com. We'll take care of you. It is free. All right, guys, I have somehow figured out, or we've got to the bottom of this. It took 2 hours and 7 minutes to answer all of your questions. If you have any other questions, there are so many different little areas I could talk about, questions I can answer. I'm going to end this with one final thing. Talking about this right here. This is how your tax bill is calculated. Out of $16,000 that we were in charge of that we protested for last year. 10,158 did not change. 5,600 still need a new value. 3,300 had an increase more than $1. 296 increased by $1. 294, I'm sorry, 296. Sorry, 3,343 were reduced by more than $1. 296 were reduced by $1 exactly. 10,158 had no change whatsoever. 294 increased by exactly $1, and 1,538 increased by more than $1. What I'm talking about here is the values that the appraisal district is proposing. We're going to protest on all of these again, as long as the homeowner wants us to. All right. Do military members get some sort of exemption as far as protesting property tax? Adam, I know disabled veterans do get exemptions. I am not aware of just a veteran exemption. Are you? No.
You have to apply for disability.
You have to apply for disability. I have a military spouse sitting next to me to help shed some light on that. I think that's unfortunate. I think anybody that fights for our country shouldn't have to pay so much in tax. Would be on board for that. I'd pay $1 or $2 extra for that for sure. Better than some of the stuff I'm paying for. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. Appreciate you hanging in there. freetaxprotest.com. If there's anything I can do to help, I will help. Just let me know. protest@chandlercrouch.com is my email address if you have any specific questions. And with that, I am signing off. There's a good chance I'll do this again next Wednesday. Over now.